The Mad Love Saga, African Sweetness by Ronald Ssemyalo. Chapter 1. No doubt, Elgon Riverland, who claimed to be the most daft rock from the east, perspirated under his armpits for the first time in a brace of years. At 25, Elgon the misogynist cared less about the feminine society. The 6.03 feet tall, light-skinned dude with small round eyes stood without a shirt, leaving the six-packs bathed with soda. His chest was already dancing to the staccato sounds of the ancient drums that vibrated like a rumbling earthquake from the mantle. The hearts of the younger lasses were surely mimicking the footsteps as elders said that the mute style of drumming left no dancers sated. These heaven-sent trim girls continued jumping uniformly. From a distance, one could easily notice that they put on short black skirts and bras. If someone was so keen, noticing the navels of these girls was as simple as eating yellow bananas. Some had thick black lines vanishing downwards. Countable hair that grew systematically while spreading to the entire belly of every girl made eyes satisfied. The party was just kicking off in the valley. As soon as Elgon drew closer, Masichila lads galloped from behind and surrounded all the girls at once. Vuvuzelas accompanied cheers from the crowds. The lads immediately stood behind the girls, then seized their waists. Obviously, the pretty bodies bent majestically to let the boys get comprehensive hold of their moonbeats. The man at the top of the Kasozi hill had no more patience left in him when the cerebrum predicted the next step. Elgon jumped over numerous rocks with the intention of halting the function. Now, the couples danced in a circular motion, leaving the queen alone in the middle, waiting for the king. The bell chimed for the short commence. Ladies had no minute for hesitation. They lowered their trousers, rolled their lasses' skirts upwards, then aimed with their guns, waiting for the firing order. The inspector of boys checked for the positions of the candidates, then sent a signal to the elder-in-chief of the initiation ceremony. It was for the high priestess. She claimed it was time for the high priestess. She examined the girls and clapped thrice. She meant that all the girls were virgins and ready to become women. The elder-in-chief released the catapult and the game began. It was their first time. Pain was felt from both parties. There was no retreating. Drumming intensified. Cheers! Yelling from the crowds could not stop. It was so awful. The exercise took only 5 minutes. No one had to remain innocent. A couple that failed to make it would receive a punishment for 100 whips without food for 9 days. This insinuated that every pair had to do their best in those minutes, such that when the priestess checked, she would signal positive results only. Those who succeeded earned priceless gifts in the form of silver, cattle, goats, fowls, a spear for hunting, and others. Another bell rang. The rest created the way for the king dancer to pass. Now, Elgon had reached down the hill from where the ceremony took place. He stopped and watched the queen dancer. throwing away her bra, and shook endlessly. Arya was a unique girl. Her amatory looks, in particular, would make a man forget about 1,000,000 girls and 1,000 exes his eyes had ever seen. The buxom figure of Arya that cast contentment in the hearts of the village chiefs did not exclude Elgon. Arya Zvuge was a daughter to one of the elders, Eli Zvuge, the richest man in the canton. She attained formal education from the capital and only went to the village to fulfill the rites of her land. Regardless of being 22 years old, Arya remained a girl. She had become a laughingstock and a disgrace to her family. Girls of 16 had become women on orders of old Eli. Yet his own daughter was there in city loitering with curses. People had started calling Eli a woman for his cowardice. All the rumors were ending this twilight. Unlike the previous rite, the final event was different. The most energetic lad had to first wrestle the ruthless lass to the ground, then take her virginity upon surrender. There emerged the one and only undefeated Cardinal Nchima. He was the most decorated lad of the decade. Cardinal had represented the tribe in numerous wrestling competitions and won them all, thus nicknamed the Monkey. Everyone knew about him. He was not only muscular, energetic, skillful, but also handsome. Girls often joked that Cardinal's buttocks escaped to his chest. This dusk was so special to him, for he was celebrating his 26th birthday. This popular dude stepped to the arena amidst overwhelming applause from the spectators, women in particular. Cardinal was the most popular son of the land, so inspirational. He walked around with ultimate pride, then he took his position. There was one provision for the queen dancer: if she defeated the king, she had a right to remain single or choose another man around for a match. The starting whistle went. As soon as the two's arms went into contact, Arya used unknown agility when she spat pounded meat into Cardinal's eyes, then slipped out of his hands to the center of gravity, from where she hit Cardinal's man and children using her head, then lifted him to the ground. The giant had lost to the girl in 45 seconds. This was incredible. It had never happened in Saga society. No girl had ever defeated a lad on this day. Shame spread from Cardinal to the elders and rest of the society. This was a total boomerang. There was no man who could defeat Cardinal. Now that he was down, it meant that Arya was to represent Saga to other societies, and Cardinal stood and sit on the Chamber of Elders. She was to be the first woman to share the fireplace with the elders. Cardinal stood up claiming that she had cheated. He ran to the table of elders asking for a rematch. They simply shrugged their shoulders, then pointed at Arya. She was the only one with an answer to Cardinal's query. He jumped at once and pushed the girl away to graze her knee on the ground. When he punched her up, a heavy blow hit his ribs so hard that he felt the lungs vibrating inside him. Cardinal immediately threw Arya away, then turned to face the ordeal behind. It was Elgon, furious. He began hitting Cardinal the monkey like a punching bag to the center of the arena. What an evening! Given that it was a bullfight, the crowds concentrated with open eyes. Cardinal grabbed Elgon by the neck, then pressed him to the floor and boxed him seriously. No rules, since it was an outrageous combat. Elgon got Cardinal by the waist and rolled him down. It was such an interesting battle. They continued kicking each other, boxed, slapped to the nightfall. Elgon chose to walk away with warnings to the entire society that women are special creatures. Gentlemen, do not hit women. The crowds booed him as Cardinal followed after him with closed fists. As soon as he reached where Elgon was, Elgon simply turned with one punch that shattered Cardinal's nose to puff blood. He turned to leave amidst insults. Many called him a bastard. Arya pointed at him for a match, however, Elgon continued walking. The spectators yelled, "Coward bastard!" Nonetheless, Elgon turned a deaf ear. He left Arya with one choice: to attack him. She aimed with a spear, which she threw at him, but he seized it in the air. He turned and spoke. "Look, fellow countrymen and women, we are not monsters to sprinkle our blood anyhow. We have to respect our lives, bodies, and Saga society. Our land is the pearl of the East, thus we have to protect and develop it. Instead of fighting for spouses and raping women, let us use this energy to defend our land from the Noro tribe. We should also learn to respect women." "Stupid, foolish, buffoon, nincompoop, idiot, alien," and others were words that followed his speech. "How dare you call our custom rape?" Arya joined the rest. She attacked him with a thunderous slap. When she raised another one, Elgon used his 2 fingers and rested them on her waist, then pressed them deep, leaving her screaming passionately. He took a glimpse at her face, then swallowed saliva. The girl was so gorgeous. He had never seen such beauty in the last 2 years since the city carnival. Elgon whispered to Arya that he had no time for her and advised her to give up, although she proved obstinate. When she tried to kick him downwards, Elgon held her leg tightly, then moved his hand to her warm thigh. Onlookers could not understand what the person was doing. They were waiting for a fight. However, this was the real one between a man and woman, according to Elgon. She began losing control. A slight wriggle from Arya made Elgon touch one of her vibrating breasts, so warm and breathtaking. Chapter 2. She was no match for Elgon. He pecked her left cheek and vanished in darkness. Many villagers failed to crack the target for Elgon. None could finally tell the person's motive. His family was the most hated in Saga. They lived in isolation at the top of the hill with no distinct neighborhood. Elgon's great-grandfather was among the first occupants of Saga. He was the best wrestler of his time. For ages, things moved on well until a skin plague hit the canton. It had no cure and claimed many people's lives. This lured Elgon's grandfather to cross the river to abominable lands in the west, from where he came back with a witch. This woman managed to stop the plague, but led to the death of his dear wife. There existed allegations that the witch murdered Elgon's father, a thing that was unacceptable. Intermarriage was not allowed and punishable by excommunication. Since he was among the elders, he forcefully denounced his titles and declared non-involvement into the societal affairs. As months passed, the firstborn sons of the land perished in the night, and the seer pointed at the foreign witch. She was stoned to death, and the body charred from the marketplace. When Elgon's grandpa tried to explain, he too faced the same fire. 8 of his 9 children ran away, leaving the last-born son behind. This was an innocent boy of 6. The paternal grandmother raised him, and when he made 16, he settled at the extreme end of the land. He was not allowed to mix with the Saga people at any cost. He stayed in the hills and married a foreign woman. Few people had seen his children, even though they knew about them. One of them was Elgon Riverland. He had distanced himself from the village until then. This gathering was so remarkable and only happened twice in 15 years. It was such a disappointing moment to Elgon. He had met the most uncouth individuals, yet he had lived a simple, peaceful, and decent life in the hills. Seeing others mistreated was not his theme. At home he arrived with painful sores. His mom was not there, and to the kitchen he sloped and checked beside the cooking saucepan. There was a warming kettle. Good, he found it. As soon as he poured water into the basin, his mom arrived with a beautiful sister. They had heard about the saga he created downhill and came running. Poor woman sent the daughter for blackjack leaves, then nursed the son's wounds. They were not so many. She did while quarreling. Given that she had warned Elgon against sloping to the province of savages since the time of his birth, the mother wondered why the person who had paid heed for over 20 years finally defied. A little query stormed her simple head and wanted to know whether he had seen a gorgeous girl there. She smiled and called his sister, Marie Moroto, to hurry, then asked to remind her the name of the girl Elgon was fighting. She quickly stammered Aria as laughter overwhelmed them. They wondered why and when Elgon picked interest in girls. They could not stop laughing. He excused himself that Cardinal had already lost but never conceded. Thus, Elgon was obliged to teach him a lesson that he was not the strongest man in Saga. Maya looked into his eyes and called him a fibber. She added that when Elgon's eyes twinkled like those of a hare that had stolen groundnuts, it was obvious he was deceiving. She pinned him that admitting that he wanted to pick the girl's attention by risking his life was no crime for a handsome man of his age. Elgon chose to chase after Marie around the courtyard. He could not catch her. She ran mentioning the name Aria until she heard footsteps no more. Elgon was down resting. He was terribly tired. She slowly sat where he was with the roasted corns, then calmly asked him whether Aria was as beautiful as rumors about her circulated. Elgon gazed at Marie and nodded in acceptance, then smiled. She wanted to know whether Aria was prettier than she was. He just pulled her close to his chest, then he comforted her that the most gorgeous girl in the hills was Marie Moroto. Was it flattery? It was difficult to tell. Maybe Arya was simply overrated. No, and she was a daughter to a Don. Mary was simply unrated just as Elgon, for few knew about them. It had darkened. They moved inside for supper. Their mom talked about the brand new Volkswagen that was spotted around Impale town near the marketplace. Mary cut her off when she loudly spoke that it was black in hue. She added that all girls were concentrating on the young cute dude driving. He looked executive, and the report spread that he was going to visit Eli's Vuge of Saga. She spoke with excitement, then fell on Elgon, who inquired whether the person was hotter than he was. She outright replied that the other lad was too beautiful for comparison. She added that the dude was going to request Eli to let his daughter go with him. Eyes turned to Elgon, who asked what their problem was. He wanted to explain that it was none of his concern. However, giggles hit the entire room until he left the food and went to his bed. They knew he never liked girls, but continued with their mockery. That night, Arya saw Elgon moving towards her, carrying a bouquet of roses. He picked one leaf and gave it to her. She was so thrilled and hugged him passionately. Elgon held her hand, then led Arya to the stream, from where he undressed her with ease, then took a sponge and soap. He stood behind her. Now Arya felt every single touch of Elgon. He asked her to close the eyes and count up to 10. When she opened, Elgon stabbed Arya and ran back to the hills. Poor girl cried while bleeding like a slaughtered rabbit. She could not believe saliva had wetted half of her pillowcase. What a dream! She checked her chest that was bathed in sweat, then ran out for the short call. She never believed what she had experienced in the nightmare. Arya had no idea of going intimate with a village boy. On her couch, curled her hair, then slept. It took a few minutes to have a similar dream. This time Elgon rested the dagger in the left breast. She screamed like a weaver bird and jumped out of the bed. She moved out to the veranda and sat with a wrenching heart. She was restless when her father, Eli, joined. He sat right next to her for a minute or two, then elevated the head to the moon. She was as well enjoying the stars. He wanted to know what really bothered her only daughter. What really bothered his only daughter. Arya had spent most of the years of her life in the city. She had studied and got a job from there. The father inquired if it was about the unfinished rites, but the girl was as dumb as a tombstone. He later noticed she was quivering. A look at her body, oh, it was terrible. Suda was performing to the fullest. Eagerness bumped into Eli. He continued pressing for an answer from her. Well, she was troubled by the outcast. Eli called it Elgon's ancestral witchcraft. He stood up with closed fists and walked around. Rage conquered his known prudence as he rushed to the gate, wanting to fly to the hill such that he could strangle Elgon. The old man, who was supposed to comfort Arya, was instead calmed down. She led him back to the house, from where an immediate family meeting convened. Brainy worked hard. Arya's eldest brother, Kanas Vuge, reasoned that there was no proof that Elgon was behind this sorcery. The nanny insisted that Elgon's family deserved no second chance after what the lad did during the day. She explained that an emissary had to tell them to leave the Kasozi Hill before the next nightfall. The rest supported as birds welcomed them. The following morning, Elgon walked to the stream. He threw away the gaps, then swam for good minutes. He moved to the corner where he expected no one. This was his safest spot with the deep water. The water of the villagers were prohibited from The rest of the villagers were prohibited from going this far, thus the place became no man's land. While still there, he had girls nattering. Arya and friends had come. Chapter 3. They were discussing the previous combat and how Arya managed to throw Cardinal the monkey. Laughter almost killed them. Sugar Christabel had no clue that Arya had the guts to lose such a handsome giant. She wondered why Arya did so. If it were true that one man's meat is another man's poison, Maud Miracle would have focused on the last person's performance. She elaborated that Elgon was not only a sophisticated warrior, but also a modern hunk who knew how, when, and where to touch to make a woman yearn for ice cream. She knew she never completed when Arya stopped her claiming that the evil bastard ruined her future. She was so bitter with Maud and advised her to erase the wizard's name from her head. This raised the other thing that killed a cat, obviously curiosity. Sugar wanted to know why her best friend fumed suddenly at a man who rescued her from the wrath of Cardinal. She requested Arya to speak the truth because no one was around. It was a girl's talk after all. Arya instead lost temper. She was like a half-beaten cobbler, so emotional. She sweated while stammering that if they wanted, Sugar had full authority to take Cardinal, just as Maud had an opportunity to go for Elgon. Arya added that she had someone from the city known to them all. Thus, it made no sense for them to discuss good-for-nothing illiterate village boys. Arya and friends had had a chance to study from the capital, from where they encountered Angel Mabira, who fell in love with Arya's Vuge. He was born with a silver spoon in the mouth. His parents lived in Kampala city despite having an ancestral home in Saga around Kasozi Hill. Angel's family was very strong, although he had never visited his roots. It came as a coincidence when Arya mentioned about the initiation ceremony she had never gone through despite her age. This came in time when the function was yet to surface. Everything moved as planned until Elgon nosed into issues that did not concern him. Maudi immediately clicked that Cardinal's loss was stage managed for Arya to organize combat with Angel. Arya whispered to her to go slow because walls had ears. Sugar was left behind, for she had not seen Angel that day. Arya replied that the person was reaching the village that afternoon. Smiles expanded the lasses' lips as they praised Arya's intellectualism. Maud asked if Elgon would not distort the party again. Sugar laughed at her. She explained that a militia under Cardinal and Kana had been dispatched an hour ago to evacuate the entire family out of Saza. Matters regarding his family could not leave Elgon in his hiding place. He came out bare, carrying a combination of leaves and flowers in front of his private parts. Then he walked majestically to the tree where he had hung the garbs. He turned at once with extreme anger and roared like a lion wanting his garments. The bevy had hidden them. Sugar almost fainted. Maud pointed to the direction where they were. Arya pulled Maud's hand back, then intoned that if the monster got its clothes, it could stab them the way it did in the dream. Friends wondered. Arya had not talked about this area. There was no time to explain. She told them to run very fast while screaming for help. Elgon forgot everything and jumped in front of them. He pushed Arya into water, then pressed Sugar's hand. He gave Maud 30 seconds to bring his clothes. Sugar could not stop crying. She wetted her pants. Elgon was horrible. The hunk put on and warned Arya that if anything happened to his family, the whole village would know about Eli's ploy. The Zivge would be excommunicated too. He picked his dagger and left. Arya sent him words that he had no right to dictate terms in Saza, and his sorcery would not bail him this time. Elgon never looked back. Maud ran to hug Sugar. She was quivering as she said the man was so fierce that she had no courage to look into his eyes. They started quarreling. Arya accused Maud of acting cowardly. Sugar intervened that if Arya did not hide the Lunatic's tatters, there would be no chaos. Maud now gained momentum and asked Arya about dreaming of someone she loathed. Sugar giggled. They mimicked her for blushing in the dream. Their query remained, how could she dream of Elgon of all people? She had dated Angel for a year but never visited her in the dream. Why Elgon? The more Elgon's name was uttered, the more love she got. The head ached further. It was obvious that something was wrong. They bathed the sun until Arya's clothes dried up. Slowly, the three walked to their homes. They had to prepare for Angel. The whole village was now aware of the match between the new son of the land and Queen Dancer. No one could oppose the Mabira family. They had very many titles, and they were the first people to send their sons to the capital for further studies. Now that their boy had come to challenge the unbeaten Arya, the citizens welcomed this. By this time, Angel Mabila crossed to the center. Thousands of villagers had stood along the road. Many had heard of a Volkswagen, but no one had a chance of seeing it. The day had come. The road was swept, and children wiped it every second that passed. It came to the girls' notes that the special one had come. Drums beat as if never. Arya could not stop dancing. She was the happiest. They moved to the bedroom very fast for a makeup as they discussed about the heaven-sent Messiah of Arya's heart. She only dreamed of spending the rest of her life with him. Jealous almost killed the rest, Maud in particular. She was the first to fall in love with Angel before she won the good presidential race. The duo were campus lovebirds until Maudi suddenly terminated the relationship. She hardly found time for the hubby. Political tours were constant, leaving her best friend take over. It was irreversible. Angel was in doubt with Arya. A die had been cast. Sugar mocked Maud if she would like to reunite with Angel if Elgon won Arya's heart. She simply smiled and said the reverse would work for her. There was the way Maud felt pity for Elgon. She preferred talking to him to any other person around the hills. When makeup was done, the baby moved out of Eli's palace. They thought of meeting Angel. Nonetheless, he had gone to his ancestral home. Some of the family members were there waiting to receive him. Shame hit the girls. That afternoon, one arrived at the palace. Elder Eli's Vuge was there. That afternoon, the one arrived at the palace. Elder Eli's Vuge was there. Then Angel and friends were welcomed inside. Girls, as usual, moved in the grate and greeted. They were looking beautiful. At receipt of their gifts, they went to their room. Through his spokesperson, Angel requested for the match between him and the queen dancer, to which Eli advised him to do the same to the rest of the elders, and after getting their approval, the day was to be set. He had to make sure that he was to stay at the village and become one of the elders if time came. At departure, Arya was outside waiting for him. She speechlessly embraced him for a couple of minutes with closed eyes. The excitement was hard to conceal. She did not care about onlookers and the consequences of their actions. This was an abomination. Hugging was unleashed to the married couples. Now that the daughter of an elder had defied, no one predicted the possible punishment. It was not until Sugar intervened to separate the two. The whole village was about to converge. Angel drove away while casting romantic looks at Arya, who in return sent a flying kiss. 2 out of 7 who had gone to Elgoni's home came back. None of them had reached there. Elgon had surrounded the area with the traps. This made it difficult for the strangers to make it to the main house. He had different posts like those of a modern fortress, with a damp guard. The warriors lamented that Elgon was using black magic to monitor every step foreigners took. They added that the monster had a strong catapult that never missed. It almost killed them with round stones. While still narrating, 3 of the crew moved in. They called Elgon a ghost with compound eyes seeing everywhere. They added that Cardinal and Kana were in Elgon's custody. This was so unearthly. No one had ever captured the Saga warriors, even if it was war. The most decorated officer and his second in command were in the hands of the madman. No one would risk an attack on him. Fear surrounded the whole province. He sent a letter written in strong English words that if one never attended school to high levels, they would not interpret. The elders' council convened immediately. Arya was there to interpret for them. Among his terms, Elgon demanded the full pardon of his family, reinstating of their home and titles. He reasoned that his ancestors had established the norms for the good of their people, and use of modern medicine and technology was not witchcraft. The elders had to listen no matter how emotional they were at the point. He spoke about the societal injustices and mistakes done by the great families in Saga, but were mishandled and some passed unattended. He concluded that he was not a rebel but a nationalist, a reformed Saga citizen, and a lover of change. After a long discussion, the council agreed to give back Elgoni's family their ancestral home and a quarter of their land. The rest were withheld until further notice. Their Arya was requested to represent the council the following morning. Maudi was the happiest. She was ready to see the mystery man the tribe feared. Sugar hated him but had to escort their queen. The day was not breaking. Arya feared to go to bed. She had a premonition of dreaming about this junk. She had strongly opposed the pardon to the monster, but Eli convinced the council that they needed his skills. That dawn, the three were awake. Maudi had already dressed, waiting for the rest. Angel had heard about the deadly mission his girlfriend was going to execute. He wanted to escort them, for he reasoned that the person they were going to meet was a monster who respected but hated women. He could do anything to them. Angel insisted, but Sugar advised that he could face a spear before he crossed the first checkpoint. If the messenger was Arya, it was of value to honor that. They trekked to the top and found no roadblocks. The entire road was clear with no traps. Maud began to acknowledge that Elgon was ghostly because whatever the warriors talked about had vanished in thin air. Reaching the entrance, Marie was so happy to see them. She quickly identified Maudi, then guessed Arya right. They wondered at what they found. The home had solar energy with modern furniture. Marie was putting on expensive noble garments just like them. She served them coffee from the vacuum flask, then fried chapatis. These people had embraced modernity to the fullest. While still skirting eyes around, the mother came and greeted them in French. They were lost and turned to English. She intentionally twisted, then lowered slowly to their level. She explained that Elgon was busy monitoring the security, thus it would be hard to see him. However, she promised good news from their visit. When he requested to look at the prisoners, she replied that they reached 30 minutes after the girl's departure. The three were highly disappointed. At the exit of the territory, Elgon showed up. Arya almost choked him when she grabbed him by the neck. She was bitter and slapped him thrice. When she tried to kick him, he dodged her and she passed like a sack of rice. They were on top of the hill with rocks surrounding the terrain. Arya saw herself going to the grave, for the head pointed downwards. All shouted at once, but the gods could not rescue. She fell in style as her dress expanded like an umbrella in air. Well, the king of the hill jumped backwards. Ren removed 3 stones next to where the girls stood and pushed a long pipe that triggered off the net on which she landed safely. He sloped from the other side and pulled it to his side. She was right in his arms. She hugged him tightly for some good minutes, then gave him a thunderous slap. Chapter 4. Elgon smiled and lifted her up to the hill from where he handed her over to Sugar. Maudi thanked him on her behalf as he called her Your Excellency. All turned at once and looked at him. It seemed he knew them very well. Sugar asked, "What a hell are you?" He was playing his cards in a way that they gave him the results he wanted. Maudi had liked him, but hesitated when she learned that the person knew her. She never spoke again. Arya accused Elgon of selfishness. It was because of his impatience to regain their territory that he disrupted a full tribal function, made elders meet, captured the Saga warriors, and worst of all, he nearly killed her. She squabbled that Elgon was so cunning that he managed to manipulate the whole council to grant some of his demands. They exchanged bitter words. Elgon, I can manipulate elders' council, but I cannot bribe them. Arya, you raided the party because of your greed. Elgon, greed? Whatever it is, that ceremony is barbaric. Arya, look at this pathetic idiot. Elgon, I'd rather be that than stripping myself bare publicly. Arya, you fell for me. That is why you fought for me. Elgon, why should I fall for you? What makes you special? Arya, I am the most beautiful. Everyone knows. Elgon, if you were pretty, why did Sugar become Miss Campus, yet you were there? Haha. Arya, nonsense. Elgon, why did Maud become the guild at your expense? Be calm. Sugar intervened. She saw that Elgon could not stop pissing off Arya. He was too good at mind games for Arya to handle. She pulled Arya's hand to leave, but Arya did not want to go. Maud warned Elgon to stop stalking them, for they were not his match. Knowing about them did not mean he knew them. She advised him to forget about them. He sniggered at them, leaving and said he never visited them. They went quarreling while talking about Marie. She looked familiar to them. Right, Marie was in her first year when the three were finalists. They might have met on several occasions. At last, Maud recalled that Marie was a member of the Guild Council who advocated for the separation of halls according to sex. The rest laughed, wondering if Marie thought she was still in secondary school. Anyway, they liked her elegance. She was so cool and caring compared to Elgon, who they called a nightmare. Silence hit them at once when Sugar mentioned Elgon's name again. They walked for a half a kilometer, waiting for the other to start. A lot flowed in their mind about him. Sugar spoke that Elgon was not that horrible as the rest took him. She added that the lad had stood for Arya twice at the time no one else could. She continued that if the person was so bad, he would not have asked for reconciliation. To Sugar, Elgon was ready to defend himself from anyone at whatever cost. That is why he roped Kana and Cardinal like goats. Arya advised her to stop, for she was advertising hell for people to enter. She said they had delivered their message well and returned safely despite the hiccup encountered, so it would be good if they forgot about him, because the more they discussed him, the more he sank deep into their mind. She advised that if they wanted men, Kana and Cardinal were better options for Sugar and Maudi. Maudi could not stop laughing. She said that it was real pretense visible to the blind. She added that Arya feared what she liked and consequently hated it without sounding pretext. Maudi added that if she did not like Elgon, she would not have attacked him every time. She continued that the person was mysterious, but Arya constantly flaunted herself to him as if the two knew each other before. Arya called it jealous. She interpreted Maudi's lamentation as selfish because Maudi still liked Angel, therefore intended to divert Arya to the dungeons of Elgon, leaving Angel alone for Maudi to grab. She accused Maudi of wanting everything for herself. She dropped in the guiltless story that they had decided as a team to front Sugar and Maudi for Miss Campus, such that if one lost, the other would win, for both had the requisite qualifications. Then Arya was to contest for guild presidency because she was the most popular. Unfortunately, Maudi betrayed Arya and took the big seat, and on top of that, she advised Arya to contest with Sugar, yet she knew Arya was a bit fat, thus her loss. Arya added that Maudi used the Kennedy style when she appointed her as the vice guild, a position that kept her down. She saw that she had no option but to take up Angel when the gap was created, but she was not willing to fall into Maudi's tricks again by letting Angel go. Tears rolled Maudi's eyes. She could hardly speak as the journey continued. Sugar gave her a tissue to do the needful. They were some good friends. She turned to Arya and reminded her it was during that same meeting that Angel brought the forms having filled Maudi's name. She said that when Arya saw this, she sacrificed the position for the friend. After all, they were one person. Maudi confessed that she still liked Angel then, but when she saw Arya and him getting closer, she deliberately created a series of excuses to let things happen as compensation for the big seat. She painfully confessed that if Arya insisted on taking the chair, she would let go, but it had happened that way. Arya further expounded that she wished Eligoni for Arya. She further expounded that she wished Eligon for Arya because Maudi further expounded that she wished Eligon for Arya because he was a better choice, but if Arya persisted, it was fine. Finally, Maudi summarized that she had no reason to eat what she had vomited. At this time, Arya, who had calmly listened, lost control and said that leopard never changed their spots. She mentioned that Maudi was leading a path of darkness. Besides, she was plotting something strange by luring her to Elgon. She spoke that Maudi was seeking for cheap popularity, thinking it was university politics, but no one was going to sympathize with her. To Arya, Maudi wanted both to lose Angel, but it was a total boomerang. She spoke while pointing at Maudi, a thing she knew that turned Maudi off. The next thing was predictable. Maudi stammered as her cheeks shook. Sugar tried to intercept, but it was too late. A fitting slap burst outside Eli's palace, and most of the people moved out to see what had exactly happened to the three best friends. She had terribly slapped her best friend.